Tasya pritena manasa tam dat vaida vidastata Pashyaton tardade sopi svapuram pratyapadyata Tasya pritena manasa tam dat vaida vidastata Pashyaton tardade sopi svapuram pratyapadyata Tasya pritena manasa tam dat vaida vidastata Pashyato nirndade sopi svapuram pratyapadyata. Tasya with Dhruva, pratena being very pleased, manasa with such a mentality, tam that remembrance, datva having given, Adivada, Kuvira son of Ida Vida, Tata thereafter, Pasyataha, while Dhruva was looking on, Antaradadhe disappeared, Sa he Dhruva, Api also, Svapuram to his city, Pratyapadyata returned. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Dasi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The son of Idavita, Lord Kuvera, was very pleased, and happily he gave Dhruva Maharaj the benediction he wanted. Thereafter he disappeared from Dhruva's presence, and Dhruva Maharaj returned to his capital city. Purport. Kuvera, who is known as the son of Idavida, was very pleased with Dhruva Maharaj because he did not ask him for anything materially enjoyable. Kuvera is one of the demigods, so one may put forward the argument, why did Dhruva Maharaj take a benediction from a demigod? The answer is that for a Vaishnava, there is no objection to taking a benediction from a demigod if it is favorable for advancing Krishna consciousness. The gopis, for example, worshipped Katyayani, a demigoddess, but the only benediction they wanted from the goddess was to have Krishna as their husband. A Vaishnava is not interested in asking any benediction from the demigods, nor is he interested in asking benedictions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is said in the Bhagavatam that liberation can be offered by the Supreme Person, but even if a pure devotee is offered liberation by the Supreme Lord, he refuses to accept it. Dhruva Maharaj did not ask Kuvera for transference to the spiritual world, which is called liberation. He simply asked that wherever he would remain, whether in the spiritual or material world, he would always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A Vaishnava is always respectful to everyone. So when Kuvera offered him a benediction, he did not want to refuse it, but he wanted something which would be favorable to his advancement in Krishna consciousness. Om Jnana Timanandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshum Malitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is a there's many chapters, isn't it, around Dhruva Maharaj, and here we are in the Bhagavatam where Dhruva Maharaj has been fighting the Yakshas, and his grandfather Swayambhuva Manu has said, please stop. And Kuvera has become involved, and Kuvera is offering Dhruva Maharaj a benediction, giving him some advice, some philosophical advice around misidentification of oneself and others as I and you on the basis of the bodily concept of life as a product of ignorance. This bodily concept is the cause of repeated birth and death, and it makes us go on continuously in material existence. So Kuvira is the treasurer of the demigods and the provider of riches to the kings and to being the source of fortune, giving great wealth to kings over the ages. He also has an understanding of our philosophy, and he is explaining that to Dhruva Maharaj. But it's explained here by Prabhupada in the purport that so when Kuvira offered him a benediction, Dhruva Maharaj would not refuse it because a Vaishnava is always respectful to everyone. But the caveat there, the difference is he wanted something which would be favorable in his advancement in Krishna consciousness. So the examples of the great souls in the Bhagavatam are always demonstrating to us the importance of keeping Krishna in the center of our activities, of our decision-making, of our thought processes, and of what it is that we do when something comes along by providence. We can engage it in the service of the Lord. So Lord Kuvira, he's very pleased with Dhruva Maharaj. And what is it that Dhruva Maharaj said? He, I'm trying. Sorry, I'll just go back a couple of pages. I had it here. So the benediction that Dhruva Maharaj asked for was, there we go. He begged that he might, so Dhruva Maharaj, when Kuvira asked him, what benediction do you want? Dhruva Maharaj, who was an intelligent and thoughtful king, begged that he might have unflinching faith in and remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. For thus a person can cross over the ocean of nescience very easily, although it is very difficult for others to cross. So when I was reading this, it really brought to mind how kind Srila Prabhupada is, that he has given us the topmost knowledge and realization, the topmost opportunity to understand that Krishna, to have unflinching faith and remembrance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the highest and most amazing thing that Prabhupada has given to us. And he's also given us the tools and the methodology and the opportunity to engage in a process that helps us to develop unflinching faith and remembrance of Krishna in all our situations. And more than that, he's also developed a society, a worldwide society, where we have the opportunity to engage in this way, to engage in hearing, chanting, remembering, serving Krishna, Krishna's devotees, the deity, the cleansing the temple, providing prasadam, to invite other souls to take up this path. So it's such a wonderful process that Prabhupada has given us. So, sorry, my husband's just got a bit of a cough in the background there. So it's such a wonderful process that that Prabhupada has given us, and here it is that Lord Kuvira has offered this benediction to Dhruva Maharaj that, yes, you will remember Krishna in all your undertakings. So last night I gave a workshop at the loft at the outreach centre, and it's always it can be a challenging process to condense our philosophy in a way that's attractive to people that have never heard about Krishna, have never heard about the tools that we need to undertake in order to get realization of Krishna in our lives. So I developed a class or a workshop on understanding our rights and responsibilities as human beings. And I thought that that kind of fits in a little bit with today's verse, because Dhruva Maharaj is setting the standard of what the responsibility of a human being is, no matter what ashram you're in. So he's a great king. He has many, he's had to go and fight the yakshas as part of his duty as a king. He has unlimited wealth, but he has managed to do all this with a consciousness of Krishna. So in this workshop last night, we were talking about the rights and responsibilities of human beings. And I was studying the Bhagavad Gita, some of Prabhupada's purports in the Bhagavad Gita. And one of the things that sort of came out in terms of the rights of a human being, so the right of a human being is to question and understand what is the point of human life. And that is the difference between us and other species of life, is that animals don't generally inquire into knowledge of the absolute truth. So it's also a responsibility of a human being is to understand what it is that we use our human life for. So Prabhupada on many occasions is, the animals eat, sleep, mate, and defend, and if humans just do the same thing, what is the difference? So as devotees, we understand that we want to be doing more than eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. We want to be cultivating a relationship with Krishna and increasing our faith and dedication to the process. So getting the level of realization that at the end, Krishna is the source of everything. This material life is a temporary blip in our many myriad of lives that we've experienced in material consciousness. And that we need to continue to take steps towards lifting our consciousness from the mundane to the transcendental. So day by day, minute by minute, assessing who are we serving, what sort of thoughts am I cultivating, what activities am I engaging in this world? Am I serving my senses? Am I serving Krishna? Am I serving the divine? Am I serving the deities? Am I making steps towards remembrance and love for Krishna in each moment of my life? So this is the responsibility of a human being, is to cultivate spiritual knowledge. And fortunately for those of us that have somehow or other come to Krishna consciousness and have developed this understanding through Prabhupada's mercy and this transcendental knowledge, that more than cultivating an understanding of what is the point of human life, is that we've been given the understanding, and it's cultivating a moment-to-moment engagement in that process, because we all have actually the right, as parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, we actually have the right to full transcendental wisdom, knowledge, and bliss, and full connection with Krishna. So that is our right. But it's sometimes we don't act in a way that we access that right, because we do things that aren't conducive for our spiritual life, or we make offences to devotees, or we have some hiccups along the path. And as Baba Sandi was talking about in yesterday's class, that sometimes all of us, we can go astray, we can go, there can be bumps and roadblocks on our path back to Godhead. And she likened it to what was it, like a GPS? You've just got to get back on track. So that's what we hope and pray and support one another to do, that this is the most incredible, wonderful knowledge. In Kali Yuga, we know the whole atmosphere is the opposite of being progressive and conducive for spiritual knowledge. So we need to support one another to, if we wander off here or there, to come back on the path and to get back on the path. And Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita and purport in Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness, that the beginning of knowledge, therefore, is amanitva. Sorry, I'm not very good at reading that. Amanitva, humility. One should be humble and know that he is subordinate to the Supreme Lord. Due to rebellion against the Supreme Lord, one becomes subordinate to material nature. One must know and be convinced of this truth. So in my study for the workshop last night, we were talking about knowledge as being the cause of liberation and ignorance as being the cause of bondage. So these are the things that, that affect us and interrupt our spiritual progress, is that the living entity in Kali Yuga tends more towards the ignorance, the ignorance of the self, the ignorance of activities that promote and cultivate a spiritual consciousness. So, and the modes of material nature in Kali Yuga are very divisive and Triguna Mayi, there's goodness, passion, and ignorance that's mixed up in so many ways, but it tends more to be passion and ignorance that's currently predominating the wider world, the wider society. So this cause of bondage to material consciousness comes from ignorance. So we have to constantly be pushing towards knowledge. So knowledge is the cause of liberation. And Prabhupada writes at the beginning of knowledge, as I said, is humility. And due to rebellion against the Supreme Lord, one becomes subordinate to material nature. One should be humble and know he is subordinate to God. So this is what Prabhupada explains in terms of the atmosphere that we're dealing with. So we want to be heading to knowledge and remembering that knowledge is humility. I think there was something else really nice Baba Sundhi said in her class yesterday around we want to be pure, but we don't want to be purified. And we want to be humble, but we don't want to be humbled. So, this is a bit of a contradiction, and it's the nature that comes back to our original nature of thinking, that we are the enjoyer. So we're trying to imitate Krishna. We're trying to imitate God, Krishna, who is the supreme enjoyer. We are the enjoyed. We are the energy. We are parcels that serve Krishna and have a responsibility in loving Krishna through service. But since time immemorial, that's why we're here in the material world, is we've cultivated this idea that we are the enjoyer, we are the source, we are the supreme. And this becomes a subtle thing as we progress in our spiritual life, that on some level we think we know best, and humility goes in the back burner, and it's a nice word that we go, oh yeah, it's a nice idea. When I'm a pure devotee, I might become humble. But actually the path to pure devotional service is humility, because knowledge is the cause of liberation, and the beginning of knowledge is humility. So we want to, as Lord Chaitanya says, this was it the grass, more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. These are very powerful metaphors actually to meditate on in our daily, monthly, annual, decade progression in our spiritual life, is that these more tolerant than a tree, more humble than a blade of grass. These are the instructions of Lord Chaitanya of how actually to cultivate and move towards real knowledge, which we understand by Prabhupada's mercy through his teachings, that the knowledge that he's provided us is taking us to the top rung of self-realization. So, for example, Prabhupada writes in chapter 13 of the Bhagavad Gita in text 12 purport, beginning from practicing humility up to the point of realization of the supreme truth, the absolute personality of Godhead, this process is just like a staircase beginning from the ground floor and going up to the top floor. Now, on the staircase, there are so many people who have reached the first floor, the second, or the third floor, etc. But unless one reaches the top floor, which is the understanding of Krishna, he is at a lower stage of knowledge. If anyone wants to compete with God and at the same time make advancement in spiritual knowledge, he will be frustrated. It is clearly stated that without humility, understanding is not truly possible. To think oneself God is most puffed up. Although the living entity has always been kicked by the stringent laws of material nature, he still thinks, I am God, because of ignorance. The beginning of knowledge, therefore, is humility. Yeah. So the different first, second, third floor, so these are different understandings of the absolute truth. But Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada has brought us to the understanding that Bhagavan, Krishna, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we understand the three aspects of the absolute truth being Paramatma, Brahman, Bhagavan. But Prabhupada has brought us to this highest understanding. And even more so than that, Prabhupada has brought, through his books, has provided us the knowledge and understanding that loving Krishna is the absolute topmost, and that Krishna, he loves to be loved by his devotees, so much so that he even agreed to be bound by Mother Yashoda, that Krishna likes to become the property of his devotee. So this love for Krishna is the topmost, and this continuous prayer, meditation, chanting of his holy names, engaging in service, being more tolerant than a tree, being more humble than a blade of grass. This process attracts Krishna's attention, and this process puts us in good stead to follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj and be conscious of Krishna, to the point that when life throws us benedictions or opportunities, we always choose Krishna. We choose Krishna's service. We just want to be conscious of Krishna in whatever situation we're in. So this is the mercy of the parampara and the knowledge and example that's provided to us through these great souls in the Bhagavatam. And that is the perfection of life. This is our right and our responsibility. So our right is to achieve perfection, to reconnect and love Krishna with all our heart. And our responsibility is to continue, no matter what, to continue cultivating this consciousness, and to continue cultivating a mindset that looks to serve the Vaishnavas, to see the good in others, to engage in devotional service through thick and thin, no matter what storms life throws at us. And life will throw its storms. We talked about this in the workshop last night. We recently had an issue with our farmhouse roof because of the storms that have been coming through, and so a contractor wanted to do a stress test, called it a stress test, to see, you know, what parts of the roof weren't dealing with the weather conditions and the rainfall. So I thought, yeah, actually it's really like that in terms of our spiritual life. We get stress tested, and Krishna, you know, oh, you're going to keep serving me if this happens, or what about that? And, you know, so many things can affect our dedication to just continuing on the path and to develop this humility and this pridelessness, so we can get roadblocks and challenges on the path. But that's where we need to support one another, to just come back and understand that if we just keep chanting Hare Krishna, we keep trying to serve the devotees, we endeavour best we can to arrange our lives in a way that's conducive for our spiritual development and our gradual cultivation of Krishna consciousness, that's the best way to traverse our lives, because our lives are very short. It seems at the time to be a long process, but before you know it, you wake up and you're 50. Or 60 or 70 or 30, you know, life goes very quickly, and the nature of the material energy, and it's her job, Maya, is to get us so caught up with so many diversions, anything but Krishna. And she's also very clever, you know, she can come in, but this is Krishna conscious. If I meditate in this way, and if I think about all those issues or all that stuff that happened, that's going to help me remember Krishna at the end. No, we just want to remember Krishna. We want to be humble. We want to do service. We want to develop our lives in the best way that's most conducive to our, us being stable and peaceful in the execution of our spiritual duties. So coming back to the translation, the son of Idavida, Lord Kuvera, was very pleased, and happily he gave Dhruva Maharaj the benediction he wanted. Thereafter he disappeared from Dhruva's presence, and Dhruva Maharaj returned to his capital city. So in the purport here it said that Kuvera was very pleased with Dhruva Maharaj because he did not ask for him anything materially enjoyable. Kuvera is one of the demigods, so one may put forward the argument, why did Dhruva Maharaj take a benediction from a demigod? The answer is that for a Vaishnava, there is no objection to taking a benediction from a demigod if it is favourable for advancing Krishna consciousness. So that is, what is favourable for advancing Krishna consciousness, we do. What is unfavourable for our Krishna consciousness, we want to cultivate the strength and intelligence to not do. So that is the responsibility of us as human beings and as aspiring servants of Prabhupada's mission. We want to choose what is favourable and we don't want to follow what is unfavourable. So the gopis, they worshipped Katyayani, a demigoddess, and the only benediction they wanted from the goddess was to have Krishna as their husband. So we want to beg for the mercy of Dhruva Maharaj, of the gopis, of the great souls that have developed the art, science and culture of loving Krishna and having Krishna as the center of everything. And we want to aspire for this consciousness. Dhruva Maharaj did not ask Kuvera for transference to the spiritual world, which is called liberation. He simply asked that wherever he would remain, whether in the spiritual or material world, he would always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the consciousness we want to cultivate. This is the Krishna consciousness movement. And this is what Prabhupada has given us the opportunity to do. So I'm going to end there. Is there any questions or comments or corrections? Then please.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. So in short, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna is the source of all inspiration in the advancement of spiritual knowledge and to be in the mission of Srila Prabhupada, Hare Krishna movement. Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Nice class. You have dedicated the point which we are looking for. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for the very nice, insightful class. I especially like that point where you said we like the word humility, but we don't like to be humbled. So yeah, that's a very nice point. No? We like those words, but we like the word purity, but we don't like to be purified. That's very nice. Very insightful. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you for the nice class. Just want to understand from you, if you clarify that one. I'm not sure of that. And when you told it is our right to be Krishna conscious, is it our right or it is our desire, or as human being it is our responsibility? I just couldn't understand how it is right. If you just explain.
Right. I guess it's what we could say, our God-given right, in that we are part and parcel of Krishna. So we have the same qualities as Krishna, but not in the same quantity. So the living entity's right is to reconnect and love Krishna and be engaged back in Krishna's service. The living entity's current condition is that we're separated because we're here in the material world, is that we have taken shelter in an energy that is not conducive to our original constitutional position, which is eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So we have the propensity to seek knowledge and bliss, because that is our right. That is our fundamental essence of ourself. But we have become separated from Krishna, so we're not experiencing eternity, knowledge, and bliss because we're not acting according to our original self. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you, Mother. Thank you for the clarification.
Hare Krishna, Mother. Thank you for a very nice class. I like the point where Srila mentioned that although Dhruva Maharaj could refuse the benediction of Kuvera, who is a demigod, but Dhruva Maharaj is so advanced, but still out of humility and being a Vaishnava, he accepted this benediction. So sometime we might get puffed up if somebody junior or somebody give us some benediction or compliment, we might not accept in the right mood. So it's such a nice way to accept any compliments or benediction. Thank you, Mataji, for this comment.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, we still got a few minutes. Anybody want to have any comments, reflection to share?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
I just wanted to ask, even though we may have faith, or how do I explain it? If we have a little faith and we just keep like getting thrown lots of things, as you said, like stress tested. How do we stay afloat in those times?
Nice question. Wow, many devotees will have different answers for that, because I think we're all quite unique in terms of what works for us. But I think the fundamental thing is association, guidance, and a service that really grounds us, or can be like our anchor in the storm. Right. So in therapy, so I've studied as an acceptance and commitment therapist, and it talks about emotions being like storms that come through and they really rattle us, and it's like being out on a boat on the water where there's storms, but it's about what anchors you. So if you're out on a boat in the water and there's storms and there's wind and you want to anchor that boat, so it's having a service or an associate, or somebody that helps you to anchor in that storm. So whether that's chanting Hare Krishna, whether it's going out to the temple and praying to the deities, whether it's going and cleaning the floors at the temple, whether it's ringing a devotee and going, help, I'm getting attacked from all sides. It's working out what works for you, because we're all different in terms of what helps us in that moment. And I think sometimes having been a little kinder to ourselves in terms of that we do the best we can with the skills we have, and we're going to keep developing more skills, and we're going to keep developing more connection to the process, so that because I think what can happen is the mind can start telling us, oh, you're a bad devotee, there's no point trying to take shelter of Krishna because Maya's got you. And I know as devotees our minds can say like that. It's just another one of Maya's tricks. So Prabhupada, he will take care of us, and we pray to him, and we try and engage in service, chanting, whatever it is that just helps us get through the storm. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yes, that makes sense. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you. All right, Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Yeah.
Grace Rasa Yatra Mataji ki jai. Shri
Yeah.
Prabhupada, Gaur Bhakta
Yeah.
Mataji. Vanchaka Patrivesha, Kripa
Ananta Devi Lakshmi Devi ki jai.